These are among the many new faces that Dr. Alexander D. Brickler has brought into the world. Tens of thousands of babies, including 3 of his own, Alexander, David, Michael, and also a Heisman Trophy winner, and now second and third generation babies. At 90+ years old, Dr. Brickler is taking down his shingle. But with the Women's Pavilion at Tallahassee Memorial HealthCare bearing his name, he will always be part of the hospital and Tallahassee, the community he has called home since 1957.
My desire early on in life was not medicine. I was very much interested in hard sciences. I was mesmerized by mathematics, and I wanted to really be a physicist. That was my double major in physics and math. But along came a professor who told me, you're not going to be able to do anything with that. Why don't you try medical school? They're doing examinations in the next month or so. Why don't you take them? I took them and I did well and got into medical school, and that was how it went. Didn't like medicine when I first got there. It was a lot of memory work, and that wasn't the kind of thing that I enjoyed most. Memorizing bones and the anatomical features and so forth wasn't my thing. So I was pretty bored for the first 2 years. But when I got into the clinical aspect of it, when it turned out to be problem solving, then I liked it. And I pretty much liked it all the rest of the time. You want to hear about a situation that I ran into when I was a junior student coming down just to spend a few days on vacation with my father-in-law. He said, all right, I'm going to make you an extern, and you're going to work the emergency room because we don't have anybody else to work the emergency room. I was sitting there trembling, wondering what was going to come through the door, and through the door came the funeral director and said, we've got a patient out in the farmland, and they need a doctor out there. The midwife can't get her delivered. So we jumped in the car, and I followed the funeral director who took me out to this little house. So over in the corner was this lady who had been in labor for maybe 2 or 3 days, and there was no electricity, and I had a flashlight, and I shined it down on her perineum, and out of her perineum was this huge baby's head. We struggled and struggled, finally got the baby delivered, and it weighed 18 pounds. It was stillbirth. That was one of my first experiences here in Tallahassee. I said, if I'm going to get problems like that, I need to be a good doctor and a lucky doctor.
You were a doctor in the Korean War era.
Yes.
What do you think of the show MASH?
I was not involved in a MASH unit, but I was involved in a general hospital that was manned largely by freshly trained residents, so that our relationship was kind of a camaraderie, the kind of camaraderie that you saw in MASH. I went in as a first lieutenant and was promoted to captain, and it was maybe 4 or 5 months before I even got my insignia and put it on, because we were all there doing a job, and nobody was a captain, nobody was a colonel. We were doctors and nurses, and we were doing a job. So it was a great deal of fun. Some of the best times in my practice life were those days that I worked at Lockburn Hospital in Columbus, Ohio. I enjoyed that immensely. I came down here to join my father-in-law, who was a family physician and a PhD in genetics, and he was head of the biology department at A&M and was also practicing. He had his hands full, and I had just gotten out of the service and was looking for opportunities. He said, well, while you're making up your mind, come on down to Tallahassee and help me out. So I did, with the idea of staying down here for maybe a year or so and going back up north where it was nice. But I got down here and it became so interesting and so challenging that I stayed. When I first got here in '57, drinking fountains, restrooms, everything was segregated. And the segregation was law. Therefore, if you were in the general population, you were aware of it at all times. Being as busy as I was with the responsibilities that I had with labor and delivery and other illnesses, because I was doing general practice at that time, It didn't bother me that much because I couldn't go to town. I couldn't really get that involved with what was happening in town. But my wife and family had a very hard time with it. I thought it was coming for a year.
And you kind of passed that number, didn't you?
I went right through it because I was interested in what I was doing. I was getting a lot of satisfaction out of what I was doing. It put a lot of unnecessary pressure, I think, on my family because they had to come up under the suppression that all families of African-American background had to endure during those periods of time. After TMH, Tallahassee Memorial Hospital was first integrated and I came on the staff, much to the credit of the leaders of the medical staff and to the administrator, who was M.T. Muschin at the time. We decided we were going to integrate it, and we integrated. And I was on the staff. One of the politicians' family came in one night with a stroke, and I took care of him, got him stabilized, and got things going. And then in the morning, his family members came in and said, "We want another doctor right now." But those things passed rather quickly.
You have a long family history. Talk about Harriet Tubman. Tell us about her and how are you related to her?
She was my mother's aunt. Harriet Tubman was an icon in a time before the Civil War and during the Civil War. She was a conductor on the Underground Railroad that brought people up from Maryland to upstate New York. I didn't know her. My mother knew her, of course, very well as a child and told many stories.
What is it about Tallahassee that is special? I know there were the difficult years, but then you stayed and stayed and stayed.
Tallahassee was not so wonderful when I came. If given a choice when I first came, I was ready to go back to New Jersey. But during the time that I've been here, it has evolved enormously. I've gone all the way from not being able to drink in one fountain in the Capitol to seeing Mayor Ford came, and then we've had commissioners and all who had political input, and the whole town has just changed completely. The universities were completely segregated, and now the universities are completely integrated. So that the change has been astounding.
The change has even led to the hospital putting your name on a building to honor your contributions. But you're very modest about your achievements.
When I drive over the hill, I do that very rarely, and see the Women's Pavilion with my name on it, realizing, of course, that while I may have been working all those years, I was working as a team member, and that whatever we accomplished as a team. But they turn on the lights, and if I drive up there, I see it, so I guess it's there. Spring and fall weather in Tallahassee, plus all the changes that have come, have made it a wonderful place.